Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is currently Monday, January 3rd, 2011. Oh, it's the new year. It's 2011. And this is Day 9 Daily number 232. Kind of an interesting thing happened. Originally, what I was going to be doing for today's show was I was going to be doing a statement about how Day 9 TV is going to be expanding as a business and all the cool, fun projects that were in store and all that good jazz. And that was going to be the whole daily. However, I did that in like 10 minutes, and then I was done. And everyone's like, is there a daily coming? And I thought, sure, let's just do a daily. Now, for any of you who watch on the archives, you sometimes miss out on the little snippets that aren't recorded. So what happened today is we wanted to do an impromptu daily right now. So how did we do it? I did a vote in the chat. I just said, if you'd like it to be a replay with Zerg, type this. Terran, type this. Protoss, type this. And everyone wanted Zerg. And then I said, hey, if you want a Zerg vs. Zerg, a Zerg vs. Terran, or Zerg vs. Protoss, type these numbers. And people voted for the Zerg vs. Protoss. So you know what? Even though we did the Zerg vs. Protoss yesterday, we're going to do one more. I have not even picked a replay. We're going to go through all that process right now, just to see how much fun we can have with interactive web television. Yes. I did want to make one announcement, which is, of course, that Funday Monday will be going on next week. Please submit replays to Monday at day9.tv. That would be fantastic if you did that. Of you Zerg players doing the following. As a Zerg, you are only allowed to attack your opponent with use of a Nidus Worm. And in the game, there must be at least one point in the game where you are building two Nidus Worms simultaneously. If you only attack with Nidus Worms all game long, but you only have one Nidus network, I'm not even watching the replay. You have to do constant Nidus Worming, and there must be a point in time where two Nidus Worms are going down at once. We want to see if that extreme way of playing can be effective. Cool. And again, I don't want to say that there's no specific time you have to throw down the Nidus Worms. You can sit and wait till the 30-minute mark and begin throwing them down, but let's just see what cool stuff you come up with. Monday at day9.tv. Watcha! Great. So, we already said before that we got the audience to say that they want Zerg vs. Protoss action coming up. Okay, cool. So you know what? Let's go ahead and go over to my little replay thing. I went to sc2rep.com. This is a common place that I go to. You see it here on the screen. I've limited it to Zerg vs. Protoss by clicking on this Zerg vs. Protoss button. Now, if I want to select a replay to watch, how do I go about doing that? A lot of times people will just search by this popularity bar, and I actually like this popularity bar quite a bit because it's a general measure of people being like, you know, hey, I kind of thought this was a cool game. Like Rhett vs. MC, yeah, those are amazing players. Let's watch those. One thing I really don't like is replay sites that only wait for the ultra dramatic games. There's a lot of websites that do this, that upload like one mega crazy epic game a day. That's fun for an observer. That's fun to sit down, you know, sit with a brew and watch a fun little game of Starcraft. But you know what? We're trying to learn. So here's some things that I always look for. I look for a lot of replays of one player. There we go. So for instance, I see, ooh, here's a lot of replays of MC. Or hey, I'm noticing, look, Naniwa, 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 Naniwa. I like having a lot of replays of one player because it allows me to see sort of comparisons. Because you know what? Players do have a tendency to do a pretty limited set of things. Like, let's say I love going Stalker Colossus. That's all I ever do. So you download 15 games of me, and I go Stalker Colossus in 14 of them, but in one of them I go Stalker Void Ray. Now you can kind of go, huh, what is it that Day 9 saw in that Void Ray game that he didn't see in the others? If, you know, I only go Stalker Colossus, and Henry John only goes Void Ray Stalker, then it doesn't make sense for us to compare those as much because it's, in a sense, it's two different styles. As opposed to one person who's branching in his styles, you can start to look for justification. So that's something I like to look for. But we're not going to be watching a lot of replays. We're just going to be watching one. So another pretty common thing that you'll see me look for, if I can actually open this up, great. Another common thing you'll see me look for is that I prefer tournaments a little bit more so than Battle.net games. In general, a game on Battle.net is two people who are kind of just casually duking it out, like tons of thousands, hundreds of thousands of games going on all over the place, and then every now and again on Battle.net mysteriously rises these amazingly epic games. Like, for instance, Boxer, when he plays games on Battle.net, a lot of times he wins really easily. A lot of times his opponent wins really easily. But only the epic, crazy games do you get to see. But you know what? We don't really learn as much from those epic, crazy games. We want something where people are really most likely to be executing a really good strategy with the pure intent of winning as hard as possible. So, for instance, when I look here, I am immediately drawn to this set of games. I'm immediately drawn to this Nerchio versus Adele Scott for a couple of reasons. One, Adele Scott is a player I know. Two, they're on, it's Craft Cup, so it's in a tournament, so there's a little bit more pressure on the line. I'm just briefly looking to see the dates to make sure I don't have to do any sort of downloading. I'll probably end up doing a little bit more modern of one. But I figure that going through replay selection is a useful technique. So, hey, all right, cool. You know what? These are probably ones I want to do. Because, again, in a tournament scenario, Adele Scott is very likely to be doing a strategy that I like. Of course, players were asking for the Zerg point of view. So let's go ahead and do that for the Zerg point of view. Hey, F91. He is a player who is very good in Brood War, so I kind of want to watch him play. Oh, awesome. It's in a tournament. I really, really like watching players in tournaments, so I am going to download, if it will end up loading in time. Looks like we're having some lag, so I'll just go ahead and open it up. All right. Come on, Internet. Come on, Internet. Come on, Internet. Come on, sweetie. Come on. It's okay. You can do it. SC2 Rep may have crashed. We're just going to go ahead and wait a little longer. And if for some reason it doesn't load, then I just have another game that we will end up choosing. Oops, an error occurred. Internal server error. Standard. That would happen. Like, for the first time ever, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing a live selection of a replay. And just, like, crashes and tanks and doesn't load at all. So that kind of stinks. But you know what? That's okay. Let's just go ahead and close that internet browser. See you later. Because there's a game yesterday that we saw between Liquid Ret and oGsMC. An amazingly cool game, right? Very, very nice display of oGsMC having a really amazing 6-gate timing push. So you know what? Let's do the same thing for Ret in another one of their games. So I'm going to open up my Starcraft thing. I'm going to scroll down, and hey, here we go. There is Liquid Ret versus oGsMC. So we are going to load that up, and we're going to do a little bit something from our Zerg point of view. So again, I'm glad we went through that replay selecting exercise. We got the chance to see that, yeah, you know what, choosing tournament players, I generally like a little bit more than choosing regular old Battle.net players. Or excuse me, I prefer tournament games over regular old Battle.net games because there's such a large likelihood of the games being a little bit dumb and boring and one-sided. Games that are a little bit too crazy and dramatic and fun and nutty really are not going to serve our purposes as well. So let's go ahead and make sure the sound's on. I'm back. Welcome to 2011. And let's go ahead and speed things up a little bit. So I'm going to do this from the Zerg point of view. Again, this is going to be a little bit shorter of the daily because I did my little State of the Union, the future of esports, 2011, all that good stuff. So we're going to note that oGsMC is supply blocked. How very naughty of him, but he's chrono boosting. It ain't no thing. And I'm going to pause and note one more thing. A lot of times, you'll go into a replay with questions. Like, how many of you Terran players really hate playing against Zergs on Blistering Sands? And if you see something like, oh my god, Sen went 0-5 against QXC on Blistering Sands, you go, whoa, what did QXC do right that I'm doing wrong? And then you might even have more specific questions like, oh, when I'm Terran and he's Zerg, he always knocks my back door down. So how does QXC deal with the back door being blasted open? You can watch and try to answer that question with the analysis. So, in this game, though, I don't really have any MO. I might just be thinking to myself, I want to learn Zerg vs. Protoss. I'm going to try to figure it out as though I know nothing. That's probably the attitude I'm going to be taking here. So I'm noticing little things like Red has not sent any sort of scout worker out. In fact, his Overlord seems to be hugging this this left side. This Overlord's hugging the right side. Pool goes down. Gas goes down. Okay, cool. You know, I can start to maybe theorize as to some things. I might say, he saw a probe. He might just be going pool gas for the hell of it. Now, a big mistake I think that a lot of players make, like universally. They credit the success of a strategy as to whether or not the person won or not. That is a very dangerous thing to do. To just say, oh, he won the game, I guess he did something right. If for some reason MC gets demolished this game, there's still a lot of good that we'll find in his play. If Rhett somehow gets demolished in this game, we'll probably see a lot of good that we can steal and we can bend a little bit to make better. So hey, I went into this game naive. I went in saying, alright, I am pretty much going to just figure out Zerg vs. Protoss from square one. And I see this and I think, well, that's awfully annoying. How does he deal with that? Alright, cool. Now, there's a lot of things. This is really important to relate your experience to his experience. Think what you do here, and then contrast that with what Rhett does here. This is something where it's so important to have your own replay as a benchmark, because a lot of people will build a set of Zerglings now. Note that there is no way that a probe can get up into your base, unless he does the pylon pop-up trick. But you know what? There's really no way that units can get into your base. These pylons, in a sense, defend you. So we're seeing a whole bunch of little droney guys get built. Okay, cool. So now in my head I'm thinking, now how does Rhett respond? Is he going to be investing in Zergling speed? No, I guess it doesn't look like it. Yep, there's pylon trick. oGsMC popping himself up top. Fantastic. Looks like the Roach Warren's coming out right now. So we want to go ahead and do a little bit of fun timing stuff. So what did I do all day yesterday with my fun, fancy little timings? Anytime something noteworthy finished, I looked to his base to see when something noteworthy of him finished. Look, there's a gateway that's almost done. So if I get walled in right around the time that my Roach Warren finishes, that's right around the time that his gateway's just now getting wrapped up. So I can now use that a little bit to my advantage. I can probably get those roaches to his base before a sentry, or maybe at the very least right as a sentry pops out. Might be able to do some threats. He's probably going to have to build a cannon. Yeah. Building knowledge. Building some fancy knowledge. Here's some roaches coming up right now. We're not going to be doing too much pausing this game, because again, we're just going to do a brief little fun impromptu daily. And there's the layer going down. Oh, now there's something interesting. I would have actually anticipated that he pulls these drones out. A lot of times when I get walled in and I go for this roach play, what I'll end up doing is I'll get like 125, 150 gas. I'll pull all guys back to mining. And then I'll use my 6 roaches to just blast this down, kill this cannon, and then I'll expand. That's what I do. Rhett's doing something different, so I'm going to study it really, really close. We're actually not seeing that many roaches out right now. Wow, just 2 roaches out. Okay. And it looks like Rhett's being very meticulous about adding on those queens. We're seeing... You can start to create some more half timings, you know, where you're like, when my layer's halfway done, that's right when his cybernetics core finishes. It's a little harder to get exact timing on research with Protoss because of how the chrono boosting mechanic works. But it's very easy to get timing on buildings, because Protoss are pretty limited in the amount of options they can do. This is really fascinating to me, the fact that Rhett got these 6 roaches so late, and is also getting a layer and a second extractor. Wow, okay, so that's something I really almost never see. That's something that's quite unusual in my experience. So I'm actually going to be watching this closely. Busting with roaches and then trying to poke and do a little bit of damage, that's the most normal thing in the world. That's not something that surprises me at all. There's the expansion going down. So this layers up. I wonder what is going to be popping out of it. If you're noticing that watching it at, like, faster is really useful, I could go at faster times 2, but I'm just going to elect not to. I'm just going to continue watching this for a little while. I'm noticing that Rhett is not doing anything with his layer. I see no Glial Reconstitution. I see no Spire, no Hydralisk Den, no Infestor Pit. There's a Hydralisk Den finally going down. Okay, I'm starting to get some ideas. Part of me thinks, all right, well maybe Rhett is getting double gas kind of early, so that way he can get a good amount of Hydralisks out, so he can crush a 4 warp gate push. Because for any of you who didn't know, like, Hydralisks are great against gateway units, especially when you're in kind of small numbers. If they have like 8 gateway units, you have like 9 or 10 Hydras, you can rip through them real quick. So that's awesome. Once I start to feel like I have a grasp, once I see something that I'm like, oh yes, great, delightful, that's when a lot of times I just sort of pull back and restate exactly what I saw. So there is the Queen coming up right now, and whoa! We see a cancel go down on the Hydralisk Den. Okay, so that is quite shocking to me. So I think it's pretty typical at this phase of the game, especially for a new player to go, oh, I guess I go to gas kind of quickly, don't do anything with my layer, then I start a Hydralisk Den, and if I see him going for Warp Gate, I immediately cancel and I try to just wing it. There's actually nothing wrong with being a little skeptical. It's wrong to go, oh, I guess I copy him exactly. It's wrong to go, oh, that sucks. He's canceling stuff and doing weird things. Oh, that's terrible. It's important to just go, I don't know. I'm not convinced, so I'm going to steer clear from it. That's the correct mindset to have. Because note that red is not dead yet. But it looks like he's getting this link speed way late. And we see oGsMC getting his 4 gates up. He's getting sentries, he's getting stalkers. There's the speed for roaches coming up. I mean, this hatch just finished. I mean, that's a pretty brutal little opening. And this geyser's not really being utilized so much. So, anytime you see something really weak like this, you'll, I'm actually starting to say more and more that this is somewhat weak. So, why am I saying that? Generally, there are ways of... There's this concept that I call smoothness, which is spending like a lot of your money, but not getting extraneous things. So, for instance, here's a really easy example of a play not being smooth, or in other words, a bump being created. You have your Forge, you did exactly what oGsMC did. You got your Forge, you have your gateways, you're going to warp gates, cool. And then you think, oh, maybe an attack is coming, so you build 5 cannons to stay alive. Suddenly, while you're trying to throw those cannons down and save up money to build 5 cannons, you have no money to build out of your gateways. Ugh, kind of a bump. You have no money to do any other tech. Ugh, kind of a bump. Or, a lot of times you'll see players do this sort of thing where they will... Oh, here's a great example. I've seen some Protoss players who will go 2-gate Robo. That's their opening. They just get some Stalkers and Observers. Cool, good opening. But then they will do a lot of transitions to Stargate, a lot of transitions to Templar, but they won't really do any transitions to Colossus. And I'm thinking, come on, if you built the robotics facility, you may as well always ask yourself, can I make use of this somehow, right? Can I actually use this? So generally, if you build too many gateways, that's a little bit of a bump. If you build too many defense, that's a little bit of a bump. If you build one tech path and then don't really use it because you went down another tech path, a little bit of a bump. If you, I think I've clarified it enough. So when I'm looking back at Rhett's base, I'm saying things like, you know what, Rhett is still alive. He's not dead. He did get this expansion up. Protoss can only kind of attack. But this gas, I don't think could have been built. This gas, I think, could have been avoided. Rhett could have done the same thing and not built this gas. Rhett could have done the same thing and just gotten this earlier. Rhett could have done the same thing and gotten this earlier. There were some bumps that delayed that. The reason I say all that is the key phrase in all that is could have done the exact same thing. Could have done the exact same thing. Every time I watch a replay, I think, is there some way he could have done the exact same thing with less? Very easy example. I'm a Protoss player and I build 10 gateways on one base. And then I try to make as many units as quickly as I can. You can do the exact same thing and build 4 gateways, right? You don't have enough money to support 10 gateways at once. 4 gateways at once, you can barely support that if you're like stopping pro production, right? But you can do the same thing. So in other words, if I watch a player go 10 warp gate, I'm going to say, oh yeah, he can just easily, we can peel away these 6 gateways. He can do the same thing, but now he has 6 gateways worth of money that he didn't have to spend before. So every time I'm watching a player, I'm less always thinking, is this strategy good or is this strategy bad? I think, how could he have done this strategy a little better? How could he have done it better? This could have been gone. This could have been earlier. This could have been earlier. Okay, cool. So that's something I'm going to note. Because if Rhett loses a close game, I will say to myself then, yeah, you know what? I might want to do what Rhett did, but just do it with less bumps. I might want a less bumpy play. I'm feeling Rhett also, it looks like Rhett feels threatened. Because you know what? He did move out with those roaches early on and lose all of them. So he's probably feeling, oh my god, I need to really scuttle to make as many units as I possibly can. I'm clearly behind. So part of me was like, well, maybe if Rhett didn't attack and lose like 5 roaches right at the start. Again, that's another bump. Attacking and losing a bunch of guys and kind of going, oops, whoops, ugh, and that sort of thing. So there's a little bit more bumpiness going on here, but you know what? Overall, I think this is kind of reasonable. So we're going to start to now make some observations. We're going to make some strategic observations. If Rhett got smashed like now, I'd probably go, yeah, probably want to do a different strategy. If a player gets smashed pretty easily, you kind of want to go, yeah, I guess I want to do a different strategy. But I warn you against doing that. I sincerely warn you that you don't always want to go, it's a bad strategy, not going to do it. You really want to think, ooh, if this were a bump-free strategy, how good would it be? So, coming right back in here, let's see what happens with Rhett. So he ends up running away. He does have speed for these roaches. Okay, so it looks like our good friend, oGsMC, is pulling back. Wow, Rhett, you know, he has a lot of roaches. He has a decent number of drones as well. Huh, okay, cool. So you know what? Let's see how this battle goes. So I'm going to speed this up so that way we can get a little information here. Wow, yeah, picking some good stuff off. Maybe losing a couple of roaches in the process. I'm going to speed this up, speeding it up, speeding it up. So a lot of times you'll see me go through a replay kind of quickly to try to get some big, broad things. I mean, like, in a broad sense, I'm thinking to myself, all right, so Protoss went for some sort of forge wall-in outside Zerg's base, and then Protoss expanded. Zerg decided to tech to a layer and then expand kind of late. Alright, cool, that's just a general thing. And now Zerg is not making any drones. Zerg ain't making any drones, he's making nothing but Zerglings. Oh my goodness. And you know what? Zerg is even ahead of Protoss in food by a decent amount. So here he goes. Alright, wow, that's actually looking like a pretty damn scary attack. Pretty frightening. There's some good force fields. Actually, those are some impeccable force fields, really. Those are some of the best force fields I've seen in a while. Now, I want you to note something. I want to see if everyone feels the same way about this battle as I do. Let's pause it at a moment in time. And you know what? Dear chat, I'm actually going to be polling you. So we even see a bunch of Zerglings here. Let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. I'm going to ask the chat how that battle went. If it was about even, if you think that battle was kind of an even exchange, put a 0. If you think it swung more towards the Zerg, put a Z. If you think it swung more towards the Protoss, put a P. Let's just get a general sense of those numbers, right? Let's just get a sense. So we see there's a decent number of people who are saying P, probably, I would say the plurality at the least. Some people are saying it's even. Some people also saying Zerg are in there. So I wanna actually lump those together. By the way, you can stop typing P or Z, or you can just type it for the rest of the 40 minutes. That would be awesome. So people are starting to say things in the chat, starting to say things like, well, Zerg hasn't teched it all, right? He hasn't teched it all. I'm not actually talking about the later stages of the game. Let me actually just say at this very moment, if we think that the Protoss is ahead, P. If we think it's even, do 0. If we think it's Zerg, we type Z. And if we look at this, you know what? 4 Stalkers. 1 Void Ray. What else am I seeing? The cannon was dead. A lot of the probes are dead. Let me go to the unit counting station. Some probes were actually lost there. This is a point in time where I would start to say to myself, holy cow, if Rhett didn't play with any bumps, he probably could have overrun oGsMC right there. All right, remember, at the start of the game, Rhett lost 6 roaches pretty much for nothing. Rhett also didn't really get to make as many drones as he would have liked. Rhett also did the Zergling speed late and the roach speed late, and he there was another big error that I'm forgetting. Well, it was there, right? There were some clear bumps in there. So you know what? I would really learn from this replay. I would say to myself, hell, if someone walls me in and then does this 4-gate business, I can roach ling all in and get a win. You really hear me avoid saying those words, all in, right? I do not think that anybody should really be doing some all-in strategies. I really think everyone should have the very long-term, well-thought-out good stuff, so that way you can be better, because it really sucks to be like, I'm all in, and then you lose, and you're like, ugh. All right, I'll try to go all in again against someone different. Oh, I lost. Ugh. Right? You get your very sad Keanu Reeves face on. But we don't want that for you. We want your long term. However, still, I want to note here, whoa, that is actually closer than I would have thought. That's actually quite close. So, to make this the positive thing, on the positive angle, to say, hey, how do you incorporate this into your long-term thinking? If you're Protoss, you should definitely be aware that, hell, a Rhett could overrun you, a Speed Zergling Speed Roach. And it would be pretty damn effective. So you know what? There is some legitimacy to exactly what our good friend Rhett did. And look at this. He is attacking even after all that bumpiness at the start of the game. He is still going to have the ability to kill off this Nexus. Wow. Unbelievable to note that that is true. oGsMC is a little bit ahead in the food count, but we're seeing Rhett go back to mining gas. He's getting some more queens out right now. And now he's getting the Hydralisk Den. Okay, cool. We see a lot of Zerglings getting made. I actually think that those 20 Zerglings that were just in production, I'll rewind and point to them. We see these Zerglings that are in production right now. I actually think that those should have all been drones, because, I mean, this is not so big. If we're really worried, we can throw down some roaches, but I don't think that Zerglings in this number are going to be able to do much. Obvious getting queens against the Void Rays, obvious getting the Hydralisk Den against the Void Rays, and the Gateway units, and the fact that he doesn't have a base anymore. But this is kind of a fascinating way to play by Rhett. Let's not call this, oh, he tried to kill him and it didn't work and he's still hanging in the game. Because you know what, this game is actually kind of even. I would say it's a little bit skewed towards the Protoss. But you're going to be in situations like this as Zerg, where you need to really figure out a good way to pull yourself together and go for a win. And it looks like I'm seeing 2 gas geysers going for Hydralisks. So, wow, more drones going down. Will he be getting more here? This is actually a pretty smart way to play. Getting a bunch of speed Zerglings to do harassment, harassing with them, and then teching up to a big Hydra Roach army. Now, let's go ahead and speed things up so that way we don't run out of time to take questions. We have seen some bumpy play from Rhett with a lot of good come out of this. Look at this. oGsMC is nearly mined out in his main. Rhett's running a little low, but not nearly as low as Protoss is. So Protoss is actually very frightened to not have his base up. Zerg has total map control. Protoss, look at Protoss's vision. Just his own base and this one stinking Void Ray. Zerg has stuff all over the map. Wow, I'm really getting that you can do some Zergling roach pressure, and then you can make a bunch of drones while you get Hydras, and that's pretty good. Cool, and it looks like Rhett is going to be expanding. You know, I'm actually getting a good sense of a flow of play. Alright, not a build order, not like, oh, what did he do? Okay, so I lose 50 roaches at 35 food, and then at 28 food, the pair of Zerglings that I built, those should die, and then I should make an Overlord on 45. Like, it's dumb, right? You don't want that. But in a general sense, I'm seeing get layer fast, mess with them with Zerglings and Roaches, both with speed. And while you're doing that, drone up, get some Hydras, and enjoy your mid-game, right? That's something useful. Any of you Terran players who've never really played Zerg vs. Protoss, you know what? You have a pretty decent idea of something you can do. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. So, there's the Evo Chamber going down. More Void Rays doing their thing. Rhett spreading creep. Great. I'm actually going to open up the resource tab so we can get a little look. Rhett doing a little bit of a cancel. Okay, cool. Don't care too much about Protoss. I could do a little bit more timing shenanigans. But for all the bumpiness at the start of this game, this is looking damn even. Wow, wow. Hey, look at how even those food counts are. So I want to state one more thing about this kind of bumpy play. So, in general, you want, like, so here's, like, the Protoss player, here's the Zerg player, and you want them to kind of, like, do this. And then, oh, no, one of them lost. You know, like that sort of thing. Like, that's how most games go, where both players are even, and then one player loses. Pretty straightforward. And whenever you see that, you say, okay, this player who is winning and then won, I'm just going to do what he does. Yeah. And a lot of times when I say what he does, it's like the strategy, it's like the timing of his attack, that sort of thing. But this is one of the most important things ever, is when you have something where it's like, well, your players are doing this, and then all of a sudden this happens, followed by this. This player catches back up. Catching up is the hardest thing in the universe to do in StarCraft. It is so hard to catch up. Rhett was behind, and then he caught up, and then he lost a lot of units again, and then he caught up. And I want to try to note all the catch-up things that Rhett does, because you know what? If I can do those same catch-up things when I'm not behind, that's another way of saying, hey, I now see how I can get ahead. So, really important. So, like, what I'm noticing Rhett's doing is he is making a lot of expensive units that cost 1 larva. Hydralisks are expensive, they cost 1 larva. So that way, he spends all his money, and he has a little bit of larva left over that he can use to build some freaking drones. Yep, here's a lot of Hydras coming down. He's expanding the crate. The Zerglings running in. Oh, beautiful. That's such a great little counterattack. Oh, my God. The Ehan timing on him, too. So, wow. Yeah, you know what? I'm starting to learn techniques, tactics that I can just incorporate in there. All right. Great, great, great. He is doing Zergling counterattacks. That's just something I can incorporate. Do you do a lot of Zergling counterattacks in your Zerg vs. Protoss? No? Well, you should. They're great. As we can see, look, running in here. We're even getting some scouting done. We killed a pylon. We prevented a whole bunch of stuff from warping in. Corruptors coming down. All right, nifty. All right, hey, you know what? I'm starting to get a good sense of flow from our lovely little Zerg buddy. I want to see if there's ways that Rhett is falling behind now. Yeah, you know what? Whenever he's not making drones, he doesn't really get a good foothold. So maybe I might even want to invest in more spine crawlers if I were Rhett. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something that many people find controversial. I'm just going to stop the replay there. Just going to stop it. Stop that right there. A lot of you are going, oh my gosh, but who won? But you know what I'm going to say? I don't care who won, right? Does not matter to me. Did not really matter to me that much who won. Because I'm looking at Rhett, and I've seen some clear mistakes happen, so I'll just avoid those. The mistakes are true because they're true, right? They're not, oh, yeah, that's a mistake because you ended up losing. No, absolutely not. If you make a mistake and win, it's still a mistake, pure and simple. So when we look at that, we saw some really good techniques. Zerg really plowing hard with speed roaches and speed zerglings. We saw Zerg doing speed zergling counterattacks and powering with a lot of drones. And we saw him doing a very, very unusual little opening with the double gassing. That, you know, we can study, and we can also try to eliminate some bumps in. Yeah! Always want to be eliminating those bumps. Always want to be doing a little bit of bumps. Or bump removal, should I say. So, hey, alright, great. Here's an amazing question by BKM93, who says, Dear Day 9, these replays are top diamond level Code S players duking it out. How would you suggest to gold and lower players to compensate for the fact that our micro-macro play is just not up to par? You can still identify bumps in the exact same way. In fact, the ability to point out a bump in your own play and to smooth that out is really the fundamental building block of improvement. So if you're gold, you're going to have a lot of bumps. You're just going to pick one at a time to do. So for instance, your Vespene Geyser finishes, 20 seconds pass, and then you put guys into it. Ah, a bump. You didn't put guys into your gas. You built on one base 3 gateways, a robo facility, a Stargate, and a Templar archives, and you realize that you cannot support all of those 5 structures. 3 gateways, 1 robo, 1 Stargate. So you say, oh, that seems a little bumpy to have my robo sitting around doing nothing, or to have my Stargate sitting around doing nothing. So I'm going to smooth that bump out. I'm going to smooth it out. I'm going to just get 2 gateways and a robo and see if I can spend all my money. That sort of thing. You'll always find bumps in plays, like almost always. Sometimes they're little ones, sometimes they're huge, like, whoops, I didn't build anything for 10 minutes because I was distracted. Like, you want to smooth that one out. So, let us continue to take questions. See, Parasite01 asks a great question. Dear Day 9, do you think Rhett should have put a drone on patrol at the bottom of his ramp, regardless of knowing whether or not MC would pylon block, or seeing how far it puts you behind? And if you catch the Protoss in the middle of it and stop it, they have to overproduce to defend their own base from failing a wall in. So for any of you who don't know what Parasite01's talking about, a lot of Zergs just have a drone that just goes blocking where the pylons would be built, because they're just thinking, I really don't want to get cannoned in, that would suck. So what I would say to that is, it's really important to note that Rhett wasn't really as far behind as you might think. The cannoning in of your base will disrupt your build a lot. If you're a player who goes 14 hatch, 16 pool, you're going to feel disrupted. Because you kind of have to go like pool, and then gas, and then a Roach Warren, or a Baneling Nest, and then a whole bunch of units, and then breakout, and then a hatch. And if you're used to going hatch on 14, and now you're going hatch on like 38, you feel weird, you feel terrible. But we want to take from this, oh, I don't really need to think to myself, ooh, I hope I don't fall far behind from a cannoning in. You instead can think to yourself, oh, I guess I'm not that far behind if I do a build similar to Rhett's, as long as I smooth those bumps out. I think it's kind of a stylistic thing. A lot of times players will just embrace a lot of the variety of strategies that can be thrown at them because they like the problem solving of trying to dig their way out of that hole. I'm definitely more so one of those players. RB Lass asks a question. This is very similar to a lot of the stuff that we went over yesterday, but it's still just so important I have to take it. So RB Lass says, Day 9, you tell us to use timings. When my blank is half done, his blank has just finished. It seems that this would only be accurate if you know the exact build of your opponent. How do we use these timings? So what you actually have in your head is a list of branches that go on. I'm going to use a Starcraft 1 example. Honestly, it doesn't matter that you know what any of this means, because it's about the idea of time. So when I was Zerg and I was against a Protoss, let's say that I saw him sitting on one base going for a lot of gas early. He wasn't building a lot of gateways. He was just going for gas early. A number of things could happen. He could move out with Zealots and Templar kind of quickly, or as quickly as he could. He could get a Corsair really, really fast, or he could be going for a Reaver drop. Now, doesn't matter if you know what any of those means. These are the 3 options. These are the three possibilities he can do. There's a 4th one, which is that he just does something fucking awful and I don't care, right? But there are 3 good options. Big Zealot with leg speed pushes, Corsair pushes, Reaver pushes. Those are the 3 things. Only 3 things he could do. How did I use my timings? I would say to myself, all right, at 34 food, that is when a Zealot with leg speed attack can move out at the earliest. So around 34 food, I'm waiting, and I don't see it. I don't see anything. Huh. Well, I still don't know what build order he's doing, but I know he's not going for Zealot with leg speed. A little while later, oh yeah, around 40 food. Oh, a Corsair. That's when a Corsair comes out. And I wouldn't see a Corsair. Well, I know I haven't seen him do that Zealot with leg speed. I know I haven't seen him do that sort of Corsair thing, so he pretty much has to be going Reaver. So then you can sort of mysteriously throw all the units to your back of your base and defend against this Reaver. Or in StarCraft 2, you'll encounter things where, like, a Protoss player will have, like, a cannon and a gateway at his ramp. And you'll be thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to make some stuff up. So, like, at 7 minutes and 30 seconds, that's when I'm worried about a 4-gate push. But at 8 minutes and 30 seconds, that's when I'm really worried about a Void Ray. That's about as early as he can get it. In a sense, I don't need to know his timings. I don't need to know the exact build he's doing. But what I think to myself is, ooh, it's 8 minutes, and I don't really see anything. That means he's probably not going for a 4 warp gate. So you know what? I'm just going to blindly build 2 queens immediately, because I know that Void Rays could quite possibly be coming. So the one thing that you heard me mention before was there's always the possibility of him doing something terrible. There's always the possibility that your opponent is going to be trying to go Sentry, Immortal, Phoenix, and that's it. And he's just not going to have that much stuff, and it's going to be weird. And almost no matter what you go, you win. But, for instance, a lot of players really like fast Hydralisks against a Protoss player because they're pretty darn good against Warp Gate units. They can deal with anti-air, and they can deal with some sort of immortal pushes. Like they're kind of versatile, but you're getting the Hydralisk based upon saying, okay, well, you know what? I actually do see him chrono boosting that Warp Gate, so I need to get my Hydralisk den a lot faster. Or you know what? I don't really see him chrono boosting, so you know what? I'm going to get a lot more drones and then get my Hydralisk kind of late because I know at the earliest he can attack at 60 food or 65 food or something like that. So I'm going to take one more question. Hey, you know what? I'll take this question because it relates to what I said right before this daily in my little speech about esports coming up. Zodiac 1988 says, Day 9 about the special. I know you've been asked this before, but I have no computer experience nor a lot of money, so my question is, what can I do for the community? How can I make esports happen? A pledge that I'm making to you is a lot of the content that is going to be coming out in 2011 will be tools that you guys can use to go to other people and motivate them to get into it. So for instance, making a video of how to watch professional StarCraft, making a video of how to get your grandma to play. So that way you can say, hey grandma, I'm really into this game StarCraft. Let me show you this video, and you can ship them something that I made, right? That sort of thing. So that way, you don't even have to think too hard about how to convey why esports is interesting to people. You just use these. But until that time, just go out there and spread the word and tell as many people as possible about the GSL. Direct them to the dailies. That would be awesome. Direct them to great people like, Husky, Total Biscuit, HD, people who are just making videos out there. Direct them to Team Liquid. Direct them to Gosu Gamers. Show them a cool replay. Talk to them about a cool strategy. Do all that sort of good stuff. And just get people interested. So with that, I'm done. Bye, guys. I'm going to go eat some food.